It's now 9 a.m., and I will call the Sewage and Water Board Operations Committee meeting to order. Special Counsel, would you please take the roll?
Director Howard,
Here.
Director Duplessis, Director Pacho, Director Scholas,
Here.
Director Kennedy. Chair, we do not have a quorum, but I'd like to mention that Director Sloss is here in attendance at our meeting.
All right, we don't need a quorum for presentation
do not.
items. All right, so we'll proceed with the two presentation items. The first one is a billing update by Susanna Kirby, who is our interim Chief Customer Service Officer. Good morning, and Ms. Kirby, please proceed.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Susanna Kirby, Interim Chief Customer Service Officer since early September. So about the same time we went live with HGI, and just wanted to update you on the new legislation items, ordinances, and kind of where we stand on all of that. Mm-hmm. So we'll begin with the fixed rate billing. We began that in October. We currently have, as of this morning, 354 customers enrolled. Letters have gone out to the residential customers that have mechanical meters. We are getting more and more phone calls each day, which is good. So,
How many customers have been given the option?
there were just under 70,000. Yeah.
Okay, and so only 243 have chosen it. What's the deadline for making the choice?
There is no deadline.
There
It's
isn't.
just, until you get a smart meter. I mean, of course, when you get a smart meter,
Okay.
you don't qualify.
The sooner you sign up, the more you enjoy the benefit of it.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
So my guess, because I saw the ad when they started sending the things out, my guess is that this is addressing a fairly specific group of persons.
Residential, residential customers only with mechanical meters.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How long does it take? I signed up for it and I got a bill. I don't know if it was a week or so. How long? So from the time I get the letter that says you can do this and I said I want to do it, how long does it?
Yeah,
take?
we try to tell people it's the next billing cycle because there is a timing. So if you had a read and your billing statement was going to bill the next couple of days, it's going to be your next billing statement. If it's in the middle of the cycle, then it should be your next bill.
My fixed rate did seem low.
Someone else told me that too, that they
I,
thought their fixed rate was too low.
Yeah, so
Well, I don't know if it's too low, but it seemed low to me.
But she
This may
said when
not
she
be the
looked
right
at
time
the
to-
12, the ones that went into the calculation, it seemed low. Is there,
Is it
It's-
straight up average? of
it's
the
a
non-
straight up average, 12-month average. It removes any bills that may actively be in dispute. But the last 12 months from the point in time when we ran the list, all those bills with the calculations times the number of days in the billing cycles divided by those days times 30.
I did sign up for my new account, worked beautifully and gives you all kind of information.
Wonderful.
Very, very nice. The only thing I'd say is it's a tad bit slow, but I'm sure we have some improvements coming in IT that'll take care of that.
Working
But it was
through
great-
it.
It's a great site, easy to use, easy to get on it.
I'd like to note for the record, Director Kennedy is in attendance, and we have a quorum.
okay.
To get Chad.
And when you get the smart meter, you're going to see even more bells and whistles in the customer portal. So that'll
I'm
be
waiting
fun.
for it.
Yeah.
It's lots of bells and whistles.
The next one is the estimated billing that effective January 1st, we won't be able to send out estimated bills with estimated consumption. We are in the midst of testing it. It has been successful. So if for some reason we are unable to capture an actual read, the customer will receive a bill with just the ready-to-serve charges only. And then the next month, when they have the read, they will have the consumption.
But we're not forgiving anything, we're just not billing it
Correct.
at that time.
How does, is there any, are we doing any kind of spot checks on these things to make sure that, for example, the fixed billing is being calculated correctly and the,
Yeah, we did user acceptance testing and testing through the Cogsdale model and did a lot of sample testing. So everything calculated as you would expect.
Yeah, we had a entire, testing matrix.
Are we doing any testing, like a random pulls from a batch as we go forward?
Yeah, so the letters went out in batches, and each time did multiple testing, one from just even the bill print place to make sure it lined up properly and that we had the correct information for the correct customers, and that also the numbers added up. And so I would choose a random sample of that batch to ensure accuracy.
And are customer service complaints going down? Or is it too early to tell?
It's too early to tell, honestly, yeah.
Okay.
But I will tell you, so on November 15th, we had 243. Today's November 19th, and we're already at 354. So it is increasing pretty quickly. The other one is the arbitration program. And so this is the next phase. Hammerman and Gaynor is the third-party billing dispute company chosen by the council for people to go with high bill disputes. If the customer and/or the Sewage and Water Board want to take that a step further and have someone else look at it, we will have the arbiters in place to review. As of today, I'm not aware of any customers that have wanted to go further past HGI that I'm aware of. We at the Sewage and Water Board through the end of October will have about 45 accounts that we would like to go through arbitration. My understanding, and I will defer to legal and gray, but that the CEA is still working its way through the state.
It's almost finished, so it should be any day now.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
25 on 57 of them.
And then we have the drainage consolidation, and Gassan, so I will probably let you speak to that.
We're still in negotiation with the city and trying to finalize the CEA that allows us to take over the minor drainage system. And we're attempting to define the best we can how much money we're going to receive in 2025 so we can establish a contract as soon as possible. So we wrote up the contract, we're ready to go. As soon as we have a formal commitment from the city and the amount, then we can advertise and then we can literally hit the ground running and start cleaning catch basins as early as January.
I assume we can't contract until we have the money identified like
That is accurate.
Okay, so what would happen, or have we contemplated 26, they say, sorry, no money? If the city comes back in 2026 and says, we don't have any money for whatever reason, what happens then? For this purpose?
Then the program is not funded and there's no action to be taken. Then we practice to square one, which what has been happening, neglecting the system entirely.
Except then it's our we're the neglectors at that point.
Yes.
And we can't get that done. So we couldn't set it up, we can't do anything to make it contingent, the responsibility contingent on the funding, because all they've done is made us the bad guys, the thing.
If there's no funding, it'll break a CEA.
Yeah. If there's no
Absolutely,
funding-
it's clear that if there's no, I mean, the funding is a very integral piece of our success. No money, we can't do it.
No, it's not a question of whether it's a piece of our success. It's, if there's no money, the CEA should be void, so that goes back, the responsibility goes back to the city. Because otherwise, we're the ones that aren't taking care of the drainage, whereas they're the ones now not taking care of
Well,
it.
unfortunately, it's a state law that dictated the consolidation to happen, and it's not predicated on any specific amount of funding. So the CA is the vehicle for transferring the responsibility and funding. So we may opt to nullify the CEA, but the law will continue to obligate us as the responsible party. That's why, I mean, 2025 has to be a year to talk about a more sustainable funding mechanism, which is the stormwater fee, because what's also imminent in 26 is the sunsetting or the end of one of our 3 millages, the 6th mill, which is about $20 million, that will likely disappear. So it's 25 has to be the year of what do we do as a long-term sustainable funding program for drainage entirely, not just a minor system. I know I'm not, I mean, it's just, it's fact,
Not you, it's.
the way it's set up.
So I did cover some of this in the Finance and Administration meeting last week, but wanted to share it again today just for transparency with you all. Just some highlights. We went live with HGI September 6th of this year. We have, they have made a little over 2,800, rendered 2,800 decisions, resulting in about $7.3 million in adjustments. And I have some, averages and numbers below. Again, in September, we had chosen 15 accounts for arbitration. In October, we're sitting at about 30. The next thing I wanted to go over was our smart, oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, question?
Go back.
Do we have the information on how they're making decisions and what their criteria are and how they decide whether somebody gets credit or not? Or is this just totally arbitrary?
We are not, we do not receive the judgments or the decisions or the methodology. We did provide them our policy and our procedures for how we process adjustments. They seem to have their own methodology that doesn't follow ours. But
Yeah, it's been requested, but
it has been requested.
Can we get them to come to a finance committee meeting?
We can definitely make the ask. We can certainly make the ask.
I mean, it's,
Or a full board meeting,
I think, yeah.
full board meeting for that.
It's interesting, only 57 of them resulted in no credit.
Yeah, we are, I will tell you, some of the things I've seen is there have been a handful, and don't ask me the exact number, I don't know the exact number, but several that have cycled through again. So customers that were given a credit in September and now they've been given one in October.
For the September bill?
What does that mean?
Yes.
So that's,
What it's indicating, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead, that's perfect.
What is really, there's an indication of leaks,
right.
potential leaks
Yeah.
on the meter, right? And consumption hasn't returned to normal. So what my plan is with my team, what we're starting now is trying to be responsible on our end and take responsibility for that. Now that we see that, be proactive and reach out to the customer and say, hey, I see that you still have a high bill and that you've gone to HGI, but we really want to find out what's going on so you don't keep getting it, and go ahead and be proactive in getting an investigation on the meter. So it doesn't just keep getting written off each month.
For comparison, in the past, our practice has been if we suspect a leak on private property, to incentivize the repair, we say, make your repair, then we'll clear your delinquent amount, but then you have a more manageable consumption, the leak is fixed. There's an incentive. Now, I'm writing off your, that incremental increase because of leaking, but it's happening again and again. There's no incentive for them to make any repairs.
Why are they getting any credit if they have a leak on their part of the property?
Well, I think that goes back to us needing to really understand the methodology behind HGI and how they're calculating their credits and adjustments.
But if we suspect there's a leak, if we establish that there's no leak on our side, then how is it that someone gets a credit for anything?
Now I will tell you on both sides. I mean, at this point, we wouldn't, unless it's a smart meter, perhaps. But if it's a mechanical meter, we wouldn't know whose side the leak is on until we do an investigation. And so to me, the first step is to do the investigation to find out which side the leak is on, to even have that conversation.
And invariably, we do ascertain whether it's on on our side or the property side, and even if it's on the property side, and if it's within the right-of-way, we determine it's ours, and then we would not charge them for that, then we waive it. But if it's beyond that, then we have no control.
Yeah, the hope was that, you know, HGI would be able to see that consumption is high or that something's going on, and they have the ability to put in a service order to request a field investigation, but that doesn't seem to be happening. So I can tell you, for example, today, all the managers from HGI and my managers are meeting to kind of talk through that process again to hopefully maybe help them get better about that. But in the meantime, we have to be proactive and do it
But why,
ourselves.
when we have decisions coming up, aren't we establishing for something to put into evidence that there's no leak on our side, and therefore it's their problem?
So, agreed, and that's what we need to do. So I do have, so the ones going to arbitration, for example, have established that there's a potential leak and an investigation needs to happen to establish that.
I guess I'm asking, why isn't it happening on all of the things that are going over to HGI so that we're putting in evidence rather than just having them say, okay, it's a high bill, you're forgiven?
Yeah, it requires adjudication of every single case. The volume, you know, they were asked to put in service orders if the consumption appears to indicate leaking or abnormal. So for us, I think we are attempting to do that, but come behind them if it's not done. But you're talking like hundreds a day. They get a little lost in the volume. Some may not need it, some may do.
I will tell
But Greg, why aren't we, can we just do something where we take 1 out of 10 or something so we can establish really a pattern? I mean, we're just being passive, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's what we're doing from a.
That's what we're doing.
see.
I'll be honest, it took, I knew it was gonna take at least a month because I wanted to even see that there was a second high bill and that maybe it wasn't, because, you know, sometimes there is just a random high bill that comes and then consumption drops back off. Now that we have the 2 months, you can see it, and we can build that and do that. So that is the plan of what we're doing going forward.
There's a letter to the editor today. I don't know if anybody saw it. City Council oversight of S&B seems to be working. After receiving a recent water bill of over $2,000 for a residential account that usually runs about $100, I braced for a multi-month frustration to get it rectified. After being sent to voicemail on an initial call to Surgeon Water Board, I emailed the issue to them. Within 3 hours, we received a call from Ashley in the City Utilities Regulatory Office to investigate. Later that same day, we received an email granting credit to our account. That's the kind of responsive city government we need. Hats off to City Council for stepping in to actively improve basic city services. More, please. They wrote it off in a day. I mean, they couldn't have investigated anything. It's impossible. A guy calls and 3 hours later, he's got a credit.
We're providing a very short, very, very short-term fix. We're not fixing the long-term issue of high consumption due to leaks on private property. That's going to continue to ail us unless we address it with an incentive. If we're going to do this 3-hour write-off, we could have done that months ago. But then the issue lingers.
But why do we need an incentive as opposed to just shutting off the water if they're not paying? If we establish there's no leak on our side, it's on their side, why do we need an incentive instead of just cutting it off?
It's just the sheer volume that we just cannot keep up. We'll be shutting off thousands.
So we do have a priority schedule in mind that we're going to talk about on the next slide with smart meters specifically, because another one, I will tell you, a large number of the ones that are going to arbitration are smart meter bills that were adjusted, and to me, that case makes itself. We do have that data, right? And so we are going to be more, we're going to escalate more of those shutoffs.
They have smart meter, right? They have a right to write off smart meters?
They do.
Well, the smart meters are being installed globally. If every person, every property will have a smart meter, regardless of your status or, because there was a notion that if you're delinquent, you're not gonna get a smart meter. That was 100% wrong. So we're just installing smart meters because it is the ultimate solution for us and for the customer.
But if they're now writing off smart meter bills, it's not the ultimate solution.
No, but it does build the case for us, to your point, that the smart meter, the data shows that, for example, there's a leak. We know that because how the smart meter works, that it is on the property owner's side. The property owner is not taking care of it. Okay, they've been, it's been adjusted, but now, to me, that's the case for arbitration, right?
But why is it being, no. What I'm not getting is why is it even, if they have a smart meter installed, what is the issue that would lead to an adjustment?
There's not.
A leak on the property that shows the consumption higher than typical, or they're carrying older debt that's complicating the current bill. And what we
Old bill,
say,
okay.
delineate, dispute the previous bill and the amount, but then stay current with the smart bill because it's accurate. But we can't control people's behavior, and then you're gonna see the stats on that.
I read that, not to be critical of us, just to say that city council just forgave a $2,000 bill without apparently, any investigation of it. But the second thing is, if a mechanical meter can have a leak, that's on us. It's in the smart meter can have the same leak.
Yeah.
Smart meter doesn't fix that.
Yes.
So we could have the same issue.
But we are ascertaining whether the leak is ours or theirs.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
right.
the smart meter doesn't fix a leak that we consider to be ours.
But it will clearly identify it in real time and allow us to address it and notify the owner and let us clear things up, whether it's ours or theirs.
Yeah, I wasn't being critical of us. just wanna say it
understand.
again.
Yeah, no, it's a,
My wife showed it to me and said, hey, look at this line of chip roads. It's great.
no, it's a good example, and I mean, it's what we're seeing every day. Yeah. So the next thing is specific to smart meter and collections, and the process to review and escalate and prioritize those shutoffs if needed. Of course, that's the last resort that we want to do. But you can see we started billing smart meter actual reads April 29th. We've, through October, billed a little over $34.5 million. What is outstanding is a little over 12 million, with 6 million of that being considered what we would consider past due. So 18% of the total dollars billed.
Is that 60 days is past due?
That is, what did I do? 2, 3. I actually think I did 30 days.
Just the regular due date,
Due date.
the 21 days, so
Okay.
it's not the 60 days.
And just what you'll see below, because it's something we really wanted to understand, to Gassan's point earlier, is people that carried over delinquent amounts from their mechanical meters to their smart meters. What percentage of those are continuing to just not pay? And it's over 80% of them. So 80% of them had past due balances with mechanical meters, and they're still not paying the smart meter.
Inferring that the mechanical meter bill was probably right. I mean, that's backwards.
It was a behavior and a decision rather than a mechanical issue.
So we're actually, Renee Lapriola and I are working with Sierra and Communications to send some targeted communication to this certain set of customers to, again, say, hey, we understand you may still have questions on your mechanical meter, however, the smart meter is accurate, and this is why, pay it. And then we will have a process to, again, escalate these customers. So to stay in accordance with the new ordinance, at 30 days, these customers are going to receive their 30-day delinquent letter, followed up by a service disconnection letter, a phone call, and then the service order to disconnect. And so they would be disconnected between days 60 and 70 of being delinquent. Just for a reference point right now, the average day for our shutoff is just under 90 days. So this would
90 or 19?
90,
90.
90, yeah.
If they're on paperless billing, do they get an email or do they still get a letter?
They will get a letter. And email. Actually, the ordinance, we will communicate to the service address, to the mailing address, and email if it is on
Great.
file.
That's great.
Okay. So then the last thing is just from the strategic plan. And again, you know, some of this came before I entered this role, but I think a lot of it still stays in play. So, you know, with the elevating customer service deliveries, some of the things we've done is filled some key positions. So we hired a UCSM for customer service who has really taken the reins and is implementing some great innovative things. We have our customer service trainer who really, she's doing things like pulling emails and reviewing and listening to phone calls from the call center and coaching the staff. And then we've also hired a UCSM for billing who's revamping our entire billing program, which is no small feat, as you can imagine. And then, again, the internal customer service culture, these key positions are going to be really beneficial. They have regular meetings. I think sometimes internally we've had silos and we haven't communicated, so these positions are really going to be key in making sure we're all aligned with the vision for the utility. We also have a key account manager. We've hired another one that should be starting in the next few weeks. That's going to be able to reach out to some of our higher consumption, you know, multifamily customers, and really walk them through their needs. So
Do those customers have their own access to like a dedicated line or anything?
they will, yes.
Okay.
So Andrew Keenan, one of the key account managers, you know, this is just an example, say the VA, for example, right? Their point of contact has all of Andrew's information, can call him directly, email him directly, and doesn't have to go through 52 Water.
And that level of service is available to any large developer, large enterprise that has significant investment in client?
You know, it's, I'll be honest, it's
That's the
still.
goal. That's
That's the goal.
That's the
Okay,
goal.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
What is large? What's the cutoff?
That's what we're developing.
That's what, that's what I guess that's what we're.
It's, yeah, we have a list. We're really just trying to make sure that it makes sense and that it's even feasible, because what I don't want to do is assign 20 accounts to one person, but maybe one of those accounts actually has 100 locations and them not get the service that
Right.
they
So,
do. You know.
so do most of like franchise, like something like a fast food place, do all of those franchises have one bill for all the locations, or do they get separate bills for each of the locations?
Every location gets its own bill. Yeah.
But do they roll up to the same payer source? Like, how do we know, like,
Yeah.
if one person has 20 buildings, how do you know that's the one person for the 20 buildings and send all those bills to that one person?
Yeah, so we've done lots of communications and reach out to, Gray's done a lot of this too with some of the higher ones to, you know, you start with accounts payable and you say, who's your CFO or who should I speak to or who's the best person? So we have kind of a master list of some of these big properties and who that person is. And so then, yes, it's typically that one person is getting the 20 bills. And most of the time, you know, they'll do something like they're writing one check, but then they have the stub that says, you know, $1,000 for this one, you know, and they break it out
Customer
that way.
number would be common, and then if you had 20 different locations, you have 20 different meters, then your customer number is the same, your meter number is different. So
Got it.
now, even with the new portal that just opened up, it's much easier to associate
That's
all
what I'm
your
getting at.
Yeah.
accounts with that same customer number.
Yeah, they'll be able to
Because I'm
toggle
thinking
back.
not just from their side, but from the customer side, like you like all of the such and suches are mine. How do I look in there and see that they're all mine? So the answer is they'll have the same customer number, but different meter numbers attached to that customer number.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Suzanne, I know you've got, that's a lot of work in a month?
Yeah.
What, has anything, one of the problems has always been that in customer service, that people are very happy when they call, they say the person is very nice, and then it gets dropped. Do we have a way of tracking yet, or is it still, do we have numbers for the cases, et cetera?
So I get, it hasn't been where I've wanted it to be the last couple of months as far as things getting dropped.
Hmm.
I will tell you, you know, I have not had the escalated complaints even from 2 months ago where, and you know, I think some of this is HGI. So if we push everything else aside, things are getting addressed and addressed in a timely fashion. Does it need to be worked on in other questions? Yes, but I do think that was something that needed to be addressed. As far as, again, the interaction, it is recent and has only been a matter of less than a month for the two managers to know. I guess I don't have anything super solid, but I think it's on a good path. I've seen even recently in the last week, billing people emailing customer service saying, hey, address this, and it's getting addressed. So we'll get there.
Good.
Can you go back 2 slides? Just
Sure.
want to make 2 points. So according to our smart meter team, the customers who are getting the smart meters, we've identified about a third of those as having leaks on their property. And half of those are responding in a timely fashion and rectifying and reducing their bill to normal. The other half are ignoring it, so it might be lining up with delinquency. But I also want to make a point more rhetorical than anything else. While 15% of the customers call you or the council with an issue, ordinances are written and consultants are hired to fix it. We are having an issue that is going to be a significant problem for the utility if it's not addressed. And this is a shout out or a call out that we need help. Just like the customers need help, we also need help. I don't know what that looks like, but having 18% of smart bills not being paid is an issue for us. And if we don't address it today, we wasted $70 million on a technology with an issue that continues.
So why aren't we addressing it? What's blocking us from addressing it?
Well, there's so much we can do. Again, we can take the hard line and start shutting off 18% of our customers.
And
That's a huge undertaking, and that's not an attainable or a good outcome for 18% of our customers not to have water, right? I mean, the issue is how do we hold people more accountable? We don't have a lot of means other than shutting them off.
Just for a number behind that, that would equate to us shutting off, just for smart meters, between 50 and 70 people a day.
can we can't do it remotely.
Well, there is an effort, there's technology coming. We're about to install 6,000 to 7,000 meters that have remote capability and other capabilities that will be helpful for us. We're looking at increasing that number, doubling it or maybe tripling it to do that, but that comes at a cost. We're already at a very, very high, very costly project, and adding somewhere about $5 to $6 million is not an easy thing when we haven't had any rate increases, we haven't had any adjustments, so it's very tough to absorb that, but that could be one of our solutions.
I don't know if we can legally do it or not, but if I was running things and it was legal to do this, it would be unpopular. I would establish, if we don't have it, a fee when we have to turn off your meter that would cover having an outside contractor do it.
We do. It's
Well,
not high, but it's, again, you're dealing with people who are not paying. Now you tack on more fees and even making the conflict even worse.
I'm not unsympathetic to it, but we're not living their lives, and we're not empowered to fund them either. We can't. I feel for them. I don't know what to say about that,
Yeah.
but we have this problem we have to solve. And if we're charging a fee and we have an outside contractor do it, I just think when the word's out, look, you don't pay your bill, they're going to turn your water off. I think the bills are going to start getting paid. I don't think you're going to have to turn off 18% of them to get there.
That's a fact. I mean, once,
You know now, if it's
yeah.
90 days before it's shut off, and now there's this appeal yeah, I just think there's a lot of ways to go. And the only thing that's really gonna
Yeah.
work on some people is gotta
Yeah,
turn it off.
we're on the same page. That's why we're starting with the letter
Not a
that,
third party to do it.
I mean, yes, we talk about that. I mean, we're on the same page,
What?
believe me.
Just go to finance.
Did it go to finance?
Should it go to finance?
Yeah, I guess, well, it's an operational thing, turn off meters, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Probably oughta go
again,
to board.
we're putting a plan together because we feel that this is a very, very serious issue.
What's Entergy's non-payment rate? Because that's the other, somewhat less, that's the other essential utility.
Yeah.
I mean, people pay the energy bills. No? What's their rate?
I don't know the radius, but it's.
We can, do you know?
I don't,
No.
I don't.
But I think that her point is well taken, a useful perspective, like what are other things too? And I think that if you even wanted to expand it beyond that, what are reasonable sort of non-payment rates in comparable sized cities to say, we are not an outlier in this, and our response to this is not an outlier. Or we are an outlier, and as such, our response has to represent that. Because part of what we need to be more effective at doing is telling the story of what we're doing right, and telling the story of how we're being responsive. And if you don't have a way to tell the story, people don't get it, and it looks arbitrary and capricious. Right now, if you say we have 66 million in past due, a lot of people dismiss that as just saying, well, that was 6 million people that were screwed over by an ineffective utility. Whereas that's not really true. But we're not telling that story properly. So we don't even have the support of the larger group of people that are reasonable and would support us. And I think that telling the appropriate story of how we got there, what we look like against similar cities, what we look like against industry matches, is important to then take the next step to be very hard line. Because if we become hard line, but we don't have the appropriate understanding, that only inflames the problem. To me,
That's fair.
But the other thing is, we're at a point now where we've put in the technology to give accurate bills. And you can say there have been issues in the past. We now know we have accurate bills, and it's a new day. You're on notice that you have to, this is a bill that has to be paid. I mean, to me, if we're going to get bills paid, we're going to have to come down hard. And there are some people that struggle, but it's being used as an excuse by a bunch of other people not to pay their bill.
Yes.
The people that struggle need to be addressed, but that's not our agency. I mean, we're selling water and sewage and stuff like that, and we gotta get paid for it by law. I mean, and I think the city ought to address people.
Well, we'll come back with a plan
Different thing.
that we believe will hopefully work. And it's a balance of, reaching out to folks. And at one point, we have to take the hard line and increase our capacity to shut people off if we need to, which is an unfortunate outcome for everybody.
No, it's a shame we have to do it.
So,
But I think if you let people know,
yes, I mean, that's,
we've got to let people know that the approach is changing
Right.
with the technology. And just tie the two together, because they're logical.
yes, we agree. That's what the letter is being developed as we speak.
When can we get that? When is that, Hassan? December, January? When is that
Well,
plan
it's
ready?
imminent. Do you know, Renee, you and Sierra?
So we're actually meeting with Sierra tomorrow to develop and craft the letter.
No, I mean the whole plan.
Oh,
The whole plan for dealing with this smart meter delinquency issue. We need a plan.
And again, what I think would be better for us as board members is not to understand just what the issues are and how we're doing little things. I would like to understand the comprehensive pathway we're going so we can understand what the short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals are to get us from where we are and avoid a crisis later on. Because I think that's the part that feels unsettling, is that I see this and I don't necessarily understand what we're going to be able to do to fix this, other than just sort of be short of money and get eviscerated in the public eye. That's a double loss.
I'll commit to you by January, we'll have a plan that includes notification, capacity in terms of shutoffs and such. So, yeah, it's a priority for us.
Yeah, if we could have it, the concept and the steps and when they're going to occur, I mean, a timeline.
Obviously, one key step that we took recently is communicating this issue within each individual council member, so they're aware of this. So at least we have their awareness. We didn't seek support yet, but at least so they know that this is something we need to address.
And I want to underscore that the outside agency the council has appointed to do this stuff should come and talk to us as a board.
Ask on your behalf.
And if they decline, then we can figure out what our response is going to be to move next. But I'm not super okay with anybody having the authority and ability to affect our bottom line without having also the responsibility of talking to us about how we can coordinate.
Reasonable to me.
And what they're doing. Can we get that for December?
Okay. If and when they're going to say
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, could do it within a month. I mean, we'll make the ask immediately.
Should the ask come, maybe the ask should come from the board?
Yeah.
Should we put that on the agenda for
Yes, we
tomorrow?
can put that on, oh, it's past online.
Don't we have a new business option? Or is that
What
not-
we could do is have a unanimous vote to add it to the agenda for
It
tomorrow.
doesn't have to be official. We can discuss it during my report, and then we'll take that as a formal ask.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you. I have to leave.
Okay.
We meet tomorrow.
All right,
So
Susanna.
that's all I had.
All right, well, we'll look forward to the plan. Thank you.
Had it.
Good work.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping in.
Tough job.
And even though we have a lot of questions, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, anytime, I'm available.
Jamie.
Next
Wait a
item.
minute, Jamie. I gotta tell you what Jamie's going to do.
Oh, sorry.
This is Jamie Parker, Director of Planning and Strategy, who's going to give us a people plan update. So go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, so this is a general update on where we stand with the people plan. We've had a lot of activity taking place over the last couple of weeks. And so I just wanted to share where we are and what our path looks like towards to finish out the year. So just as a recap, of course, the people plan is this multi-year study where we're looking to determine the best workforce policies, models, and practices for the Sewage and Water Board. We know that our 1,300 employees are essential to our work and are the greatest asset for the utility, and therefore getting their perspectives and insights is really the driving force of developing this plan. And so we've done that through a number of different ways, focus group sessions, surveys, and other outreach and engagement activities, so that we can feel confident that whatever is proposed and included in the plan aligns with and is supported by employees. And this work, for the most part, has been supported by the Greater New Orleans Foundation and carried out by a consulting team led by PFM and assisted by the Caulfield Consulting Group. These are the 6 key focus areas of the people plan. So that's recruitment, retention, career development and pathways, compensation, accountability structures, that includes grievance and disciplinary processes, and then diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so these areas have guided the discussions and the analysis throughout the study. And taking a little bit of a deeper dive into each area, these are kind of more the more specific activities that we have been looking at and trying to gain a better understanding of and developing a path forward. So, for example, in our focus group sessions with employees, which included direct report employees as well as managers, we would talk about each of these things. What are your thoughts on job descriptions? How were you recruited to, how did you learn about a job at the Sewage and Water Board? What is the application process? What about the interview process and maintaining a register? So each of these more specific areas have been really drilled down on in the research and the analysis and the conversations with employees.
Sorry, full of questions. On comp, developing pay scales, how, no, developing other pay, what, does something up there include merit pay?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. That, I think that ought to be a bullet, because that's a change.
Okay, I'll add that.
You don't have to do it. Yeah, it's a big deal, yeah.
Okay, and then this is a high-level overview of the process, which I'll go into more detail in the next slides. But I've essentially broken it down into 5 sections. The first being assessing what we are currently working with, the framework we're in. So that work was completed earlier this year in the second quarter. The next step, which was carried out by our consultants, was researching other utilities, learning how they operate and what are their processes in these key workforce areas. That research was done, also completed earlier this year in the third quarter. The listening part, which was hearing from employees and getting their feedback and perspectives through focus group sessions, was wrapped up last month. And so the green box represents where we are today. It actually should be, as of today, shrunk in a little bit and be focused only on the analyze section. So where we are today is taking the things we heard from employees, analyzing it, synthesizing the information, and then developing a path forward. That work is in progress, and we're working diligently on that to have that completed by the end of this year. And then finally, the engagement aspect of it is to share that proposed plan widely with employees and then other stakeholders. And the tentative timeline for that is the end of this year / beginning of next year. So for that first section, the assessment of where we stand today, that was really taking a deep dive into what are the current practices that are governing Sewage and Water Board, which included really understanding the roles and responsibilities of not only our Human Resources Department, but also the city's Civil Service Department and the Civil Service Commission, and the connections and the intertwining of all of those roles and who does what and who is responsible for what. There was also a first round of focus group sessions and an online survey, as well as the creation of a steering committee to guide this part of the study, to really help us understand what do employees know about our current policies and practices, what do they think about them, what are the challenges that they've raised, and what are their thoughts in terms of effectiveness. So that work also identified challenges and opportunities for improvement, and then, as I mentioned earlier, was wrapped up early in the second quarter of this year. The research part of it was really seeing how other utilities manage these key areas, and whether any of those practices could be adapted and used to improve what we have here in terms of operations and processes. The comparable utilities that were selected, that's at the bottom, include ones from Fairfax, Northern Virginia, Houston, Jacksonville, Florida, Philadelphia Water in Philadelphia, Johnson County, Kansas, and then a combined utility that serves 2 counties in Maryland. And so that work, again, was completed. That comparative analysis was done earlier this year.
That Montgomery and Prince George's County, those are big counties that are on the opposite sides of the city. And they come together sort of north. I'm like, how does that work? They combine that stuff, because those are too big. They go this way.
Okay. So I do know from the consultants tried to pick things that were comparable, but also look at places that where perhaps we could learn something in terms of size. I know some were picked because they cover the same services that we provide, same weather conditions or similar weather conditions. But that one is an interesting,
In fact, WSSC Water, their executive director actually has a relationship with the board, and she actually participated in our, with the Business Council, a forum with us a couple of years ago, so we can reach out to her directly.
I was just gonna say, that's a great turnaround story for an agency
Yes.
where they were years ago. And now they're a great model for what you can do.
WSSC?
Oh, yeah.
so that initial communication.
See, that's what's weird is that those are two of the wealthiest counties in the country. Like I don't know if you literally those are two of the wealthiest counties. All comers, all beat. So okay.
It's a goal.
Okay.
But maybe HR practices, you can still learn something.
Okay, the next part that we have just wrapped up is the listening to employees. So this is where we conducted a second round of focus groups, but really honing in on solutions and being forward-thinking and solution-based. So during these sessions, we shared, what we took away from the research on other utilities. We sought employee feedback and their perspectives on that, and then also asked employees to offer their own ideas to address what they feel are the current challenges that they are facing.
Did you get a lot there, or no?
Yes,
You did
we
good.
did. So we did 8 focus group sessions. They were both in-person and virtual. More than 70 participants from more than 25 departments. And so that feedback and all of those sessions wrapped up by mid-October. And here's where we are today, where we are analyzing what was shared. So trying to determine and identify where employees want to see change, and combining or connecting that to the solutions that they offered. Also, where they want to keep things the same and retain current policies, where they oppose change. That we feel needs to be taken into consideration and made part of whatever plan is developed. And then once that information, this analysis is complete, then that will kind of guide the way to a proposed path forward that is supported by employees because it's based on their perspectives and feedback. It will also be something that has been reviewed and discussed by the leadership team as well as our human resources department. And so the idea is that what is ultimately proposed, there is consensus among those 3 groups that these are the initiatives we want to pursue in the people plan. So that is pending and very close to, I'd say more than midway, but continuing to work on this as a high priority.
Jamie,
Where's the,
you go.
there you go ahead. Sure.
Is there an opportunity when we're analyzing the feedback responses and some data points to determine motivations? Is that a part of this to see, what motivates, what drives, what excites employees, right? And then also any third rail issues, things that, because when we talk about, I hear qualitatively what we're going to uncover, but I'm really curious about, especially when we're talking about the structure of civil service and compensation, are we solving for that? Is that something that comes up as far as like motivation, things that, yes, this excites me, or things like absolutely don't touch this, it will rub me the wrong way. Is that fair?
So that, in the focus group sessions, yes, that information was taken into consideration. So we were able to capture how people feel about the current way things are going and why they are suggesting a change or not. So there will be a connection there of like, this is what employees told us, and therefore we're proposing this to happen or for
But
this.
you've got those whys. I think that's what I wanted to figure out. Yeah.
Yes, we want to
why.
be, it will be really important, as we were mentioning earlier, to like tell the story, but this will be the story from the employee's perspectives.
Yeah.
Like that we don't want to do anything that is not supported by them, but also being mindful that we're trying to create like a better workplace, and a stronger workforce. So yes, there, whatever is ultimately in the proposed path, we are very cognizant that it needs to connect to the why and support that with how we present the information.
And Jamie, I think by law, the retirement plan is fixed. And to make sure nobody thinks that there's going to be any change to the retirement benefit. That's, y'all handle that.
Right, it's my understanding that there are some things
Pension
that
plan,
fall
same
out,
one thing, yeah.
that were part of the discussions, but don't fall under the purview of
Right.
civil service.
It's a legal separate, yeah.
And then what we would be kicking off next, like almost kind of immediately after we've conducted our analysis and have that proposed path forward, is kind of wide-reaching outreach and kind of an educational campaign to share the vision of the path going forward with employees, as well as, of course, the board and other stakeholders.
Jamie,
No, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, before we start going out and selling something, I think it needs to come to board.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we conduct the utility-wide outreach, et cetera. I mean, we've got to have a sign-off from board for something that we're promoting.
Okay.
Yes. And the other thing is that to that point, we want to make sure that this communication falls within consistency lenses for the other priorities that we have as an agency. No, we don't want to get too far off our skis for us, our skier metaphors, sports metaphors. The other thing that I think that's really, really important to me is that this agency is a story of pathway to middle class for lots of people. It's a pathway to middle class for formerly incarcerated persons. It's a pathway to middle class for people that are not formally educated but have technical skills and strengths. It's a pathway forward for people to provide for their families to step from where they are to where they want to be. And that sort of aspirational nature of what we do is so incredibly important. No matter what your partisan politics are, it's incredibly important whether you are supportive of city or not. It's incredibly important as a sort of cohesive mechanism to address social discord and sort of disconnection between people that feel like they're haves versus have-nots. And I don't want that story of a very important thing that we do that's aside from what service we provide. Does that make sense? And I don't think we do as good a job at explaining just what this kind of agency does for the people that we serve and the employees that we elevate.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, we're a functioning, working example of STEM in action. Most people think of STEM as something they struggled with in school and has no relevance to their life, you know. But, and this right here is STEM in action that affects your real life that matters. And we have the ability to support our colleges and universities. We have the ability to sort of make non-STEM people see this is not just something you took in high school to torture you. And I think those stories are super important for sort of putting context on who we are and who our employees are. I don't know if that was in order with what we were talking about. But I didn't want to forget to say that.
I think so. I think that, yeah.
What's the plan for, assuming board adoption, employees surveys are very positive and so forth, we have to go to the legislature on this. Do we know yet whether we need a constitutional amendment or anything else? We need the legal.
So we are researching that now,
Okay.
but of course, the board is in city civil service. And if there is any change to that, just like in the past attempts, we would have to go to the state legislature. That's a
But-
given.
Is that all we'd have to do, though? Because I thought there's a possibility we might have to have some kind of a constitutional amendment. Is that not true?
We're in the process of researching that now, and we can, we'll discuss it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're working on
Yes,
the legal
yes,
side
we are,
of
yes.
the implementation?
Yes.
And obviously, at some
Implementation.
point, assuming if everything's a go.
That is with
social-
outside counsel.
What's that?
That is with outside counsel, and we will hear from them shortly.
Right, but obviously, we need to have a plan to show the legislature is in favor of it, which informally, some of them said they would be very much in favor of it, so. But we don't want to go to them and have it turned down.
But I think Jamie's process was to first go to perhaps the employees, the
Okay,
employees,
I'm
yeah.
talking about after it's a go everywhere, then.
Right.
We have to
that's
know
still
whether we
work
have
to do.
a doable plan.
Right, exactly.
And what we have to do to get there before we go to employees too. Okay, so, anything else, Jamie? That's enough, huh?
That's it, but you'll be hearing more, obviously, in probably
Okay.
a couple of weeks as this wraps up this part.
Terrific, thank you.
It's very exciting.
So, are there any public comments? There are no public comments. Okay. If no other matters, I will entertain a motion. Oh, did anybody else have anything they want to say?
No, I got it out.
Thank you, Maurice. No other matters, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Jamie, that's awesome, awesome stuff.